Okay, so I'm going to be showing you how to take multiple images and put them all into one document for printing. Before I get into it, I just want to show you the benefits of saving money by printing on a roll versus individual sheets. So for my example, I have 5 8.5 by 11 images. If I were to get all 5 of those printed on individual inkjet sheets that are 8.5 by 11, that would add up to $5 a piece, so $25. If you were to prepare your file the way that I'm going to show you how to do, for example, 44 inches width roll, so that's a roll of paper that's 44 inches wide, it would add up to $15. So it's actually a significant savings. Depending on what you're doing, if you're printing multiple images, I highly recommend printing them on one poster. Um, that is also as long as you are down to and have patience and time to cut out all your images by hand yourself. Alright, so let's get into it. So I have some images here. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to size them and check for resolution. By the way, I got these images off of a really good resource, free, royalty-free images online at unsplash.com. So first things first, I'm going to go to image size. Right now I can see that my image is at 72 resolution, so that means dots per inch, which is great for a computer screen, but for printing the best resolution you can get is actually 300 dpi, so 300 dots per inch. There's a misconception that if you go ahead and type in 300 right here that you're good to go and you have your 300 resolution. But really this is actually just the computer adding extra dots of information based on the image that you have. So it's actually not going to be the best way to get a better looking image. So what I like to do is unclick resample. Now I type in 300 and it gives me a more true answer as to the optimal size this image could print at if I want 300 resolution. So it's about 6 by 9 inches. I'm only trying to blow it up to 8.5 by 11, so I'm not concerned about pixelation. So I'm going to go ahead and click this again, and I'm going to type in here 8.5. But as you can see here, 11 doesn't show up here. Same deal, 11, 8.5 doesn't show up here. So the reason that we don't want to force it to fit is because it's going to cause weird stretching or compression of your image. So I'm actually going to press cancel and I'm going to use the crop tool to crop our image so it's the right ratio for 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to click first, I'm going to show you a couple ways to do this, but first, just so you understand the difference between ratio and image size, I'm going to click ratio. Already it's populated 8.5 by 11 right here. Let's say you wanted a square or 5 by 7, like you can play with that and change different ratios that you want. But for me, I want an 8.5 by 11. And no matter what now, if I make this bigger or smaller, it's definitely going to be that ratio. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to press check. And I'm going to go back to image size. So now I'm going to do the same thing, unclick resample, say the resolution is 300, re-click resample, and now I'm going to type in 11. It's about 8.5 by 11. If you want it to be a little more square, there you go, 8.5 by 11. Okay. So that's one way to do it. I'm going to show you a faster way, which, a little less steps. So I'm just going to undo from my history up here, open. Now the image is just the way it was before. So I'm going to go to image size, and just so you see this is what the original was. Now I'm going to go my crop tool again, but this time I'm actually going to click on width by height by resolution. And this actually allows me to type in my dimensions again, but also the DPI. So I'm going to say 300. And same deal, I like how this looks, so check. And if we want to check our work, image size, there you go, 8.5 by 11, 300. So that is how you can achieve the right ratio and the right resolution and size and all that. One other way is I'm imagining some of you are not going to want to crop your image. You're not going to be happy doing that. You don't want to get rid of any of the information in the way that you framed your photo, so, or your image or whatever. So the other way you can do this is to add white space. So I'm actually going to create a new file, so File New, and I'm actually going to have this file start off as an 8.5 by 11 at 300 dpi. Okay, so here I'm going to say 8.5 by 11, 300 dpi, and RGB color mode. Just so you know, we print all of our prints in RGB color mode, so it's good to start off your files that way. Alright, so we go back to my original image. I'm clicked Option, or if you're using a PC, it would be Alt, and I'm going to hold it down while I click and drag all the way to this new file. So this now is where you get to play with your white space. So you're still going to have an 8.5 by 11 size, but with the frame size that you want of white space. So I go to Command T to activate the transform tool. I hold down the shift button while I click and drag this around to keep it the same ratio. If I don't click shift, then it can get stretchy, so you don't want to do that, so I'm just going to click off of that. And I go Command T again for transform, and who knows, maybe I want a dramatic, super big frame, white frame. And I can center it, and I'm going to, so for your white space to stick around with your image when you move it to a new document, you're going to go to Layer, Flatten Image, and now it's all one image. I see there's just one layer, the whole thing is stuck together. So that's another option if you want that size, but you want to build in your own mat or your own border. Okay, so now we're just going to start our new document to take these things in here. So I'm just going to close out of a couple things, and we can start our new document. So File New. Okay, so the width of our roll is 44 inches wide, but I'm actually going to make my document 43 and a half. And the reason for that is no printers can print all the way to the edge. So I'm accounting for that white space so my images don't get cropped. So my images are all 11 inches high, but for me to be able to see where I'm cutting, I'm actually going to make the height of my document 1 inch extra so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so after that, we're just going to start importing our images into this document. So same thing as before. I'm going to click Alt or Option, click and drag, and drop it in. Put it where I want it. And that's how you do it. So with this image though, we have white space. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click and drag it into our new document. And you can't really see the white border, and you know you want to cut it out at that size. So I'm going to show you a trick. So some people like to just dye their background a different color. I like to save ink, so I'm actually going to create a new layer. Make sure it's underneath your images that you're printing. I'm going to use the marquee tool here and click and drag, and that just selects the area around my image. So I'm going to go to my paint bucket, and I'm going to select a color that doesn't show up in any of my images, so I feel like a bright green would work, and just dye the background. So you can move this around, but I don't recommend butting your images up against each other. It's actually going to make it hard for you to trim as perfectly as you want. So I'm just going to go Command D, or up here where it says deselect, either way. And I'm going to move this So there's a little space between my two images, and now you can see exactly where you need to cut out your image. So that's how it works. Other than that, you're just going to import the rest of your images, and I already sized the rest of them to make it easy, and you just plop them in, really. So the biggest thing is making sure all your images are the right size and they're consistent. So, you know, this one's an example of an image that comes in horizontal. So if you don't know how to rotate, I'll just tell you right now, you're going to go Command T to activate the transform tool. Click and drag, hit the shift button and it'll kind of lock into place where you want it. Click the check, and same deal. And that's about it. This one has a little bit of white edge here, so you can actually just kind of transform that green layer and, you know, make it simple for yourself to see where you're cutting. And that is how you do it. You just keep going and filling up the space. And just for the sake of time, I'm just going to open up my finished poster example and show you the best way to save. So I'm going to save this file as a Photoshop file first. That way, if I need to make any adjustments later to the size or to the color, whatever it is, I'll have that. So I'm going to type in surf 44-inch roll. That way I know that's what it's for. Save. Now, I actually wouldn't submit this image the way it is right now for printing. I would actually take one more step. And what that is flattening the image. So I'm going to go to Layer, Flatten Image. And what flattening does is all these layers are going to turn into one layer, just like we did earlier. And this will make your file size a lot more manageable to work with in terms of emailing it to us for your order. It also prevents any like errors. We're not going to move your files around or touch it or edit it, of course, but you know, it's a good precaution to take. So now I would save this as a different file. Save this as a different file, and I would probably title it flat so I know which one it is. And you can save it as a Photoshop file, and I also recommend TIFF files are really great for not compressing your images and keeping the quality of the resolution, as opposed to something like a JPEG, which compresses your image and is better for the internet. So there you go. And the last bit of advice I would give you is to make sure you save, you know, all the edits you did to all your images, and make sure you label them. You know, I labeled mine sized. Maybe you would want to label it specifically what size or what color edit you might have done. It's good to stay organized and have different versions of each image. So, you know, it's easier to take an image that's bigger and to make it smaller, but to make a smaller image bigger, you could result in some pixelation. So it's really good to keep, you know, different copies of all your images if you plan to print them again one day. So that concludes this tutorial, and I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, and we'll do our best to accommodate. Thank you.